Hey YouTube, Prepper71 here. Today's video is going to be on building your prepper library. Now it's important to build your prepper library now because in some of the events that we're trying to prepare for, whether it be a natural disaster or an EMP strike or anything like that, we can't depend on electronics. Even if the grid were just to go down for a few days, all your computers, your cell phones, your tablets are all going to run out of power. It's better to have a library of actual books so that you can go to those books. Even if you don't know the knowledge now, it's important to have that on hand. That way you can go to that knowledge when it's needed. And in an event of a RAL or a shit hits the fan type scenario where it's an extended scenario, you may even run into some people that have more knowledge than you and in certain areas such as communications or medical or even growing or preparing or canning food. So that information is important to have on hand because even though you may not know that information yourself or be able to use that information yourself, in an extended scenario, you might run into people that join your group or people who are already in your group who can benefit from that knowledge based on the experience that they have. For instance, my experience is mainly drawn from my time in the military and then my time at the police department as well, seeing that I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army and a retired police officer. Some of the books I'm just going to touch on real quick. The type of books that you should have in your library. I'm going to do some more book review videos later on specific books, but these are just a few books that I have in my library, and like I said, it's in there for knowledge that I've already read. Some of these I haven't even read yet, but I have them on hand. One of the books is Complete Guide to Disaster Preparedness. That's by Scott Hunt. You might know him from Practical Preppers on Doomsday Prepper channel. Scott also has a YouTube channel. You might want to check that out. He's actually got a pretty good YouTube channel. He's a real smart guy. He's an engineer by profession. This book's a great book, especially if you're planning on homesteading. This book has a lot of projects on there that'll help you with generating your own power, growing your own food, that type of stuff. Scott does a real good job on that book there. Another book by another YouTuber and former Practical Prepper is by Dave Kobler. Dave is a retired Army infantry NCO. He wrote this book here. It's on retreat security and small unit tactics. If you live out in a rural area or you're part of a group that has property in a rural area, this is a really good book to go over. It applies as well as to anybody that has really a group set up to just help you with security during a RAL or a shit hits the fan type event. And it helps out with tactics if you have people in your group that were not in the military or have very little to no training at the time. So good books like that are really good to have on hand. I actually still have a lot of my old military field manuals that I have on hand as well. Here's some medical type books. You have, medicinal wild plants, and then you got the Special Operations Forces Medical Handbook here. Now, I received, obviously, first aid training in the military and the police department. I was also a combat lifesaver in the Army. But that being said, my medical knowledge is very limited. I have that on hand to kind of help myself out with that knowledge. Plus, like I said, if I run into somebody or there's somebody in my group already that can use that knowledge to expand on what we have to help out our group or ourselves based on their experiences or what they may be doing professionally. You might have a nurse or a doctor or even a paramedic that will be able to work with that information a lot better than you might have to be able to. Another important thing is if you're looking at a long-term scenario, you're going to want to be able to procure your own food. You can only store so much food. Stored food is eventually going to run out or expire. You can only store so much food. It's important to be able to grow your own food, be able to obtain food in other ways other than just going to the store and buying it or having what you have stored. Some of these books I have right here. You got Edible Wild Plants. That kind of is self-explanatory there. Then you got the Prepper's Handbook, or Prepper's Garden Handbook. This is a pretty good book right here. It helps you with food production. It helps you with how to harvest your seeds if you use heirloom plants. All the seeds I use are heirloom, non-GMO seeds. And prepping your garden for survival, just different ways to set up your garden there. That's actually a pretty good book. Organic Pest Control. Now I got this book here for obvious reasons. I don't like to use chemicals, and you may not have chemicals available to you after a scenario where you have a natural disaster, or long-term scenario, shit hits the fan, or all type scenario. And then this one kind of I bought for myself right now. I live in Southern California. I'm in an urban setting. This one here is Growing Great Grub. It's organic food for small spaces. This is a really good book for anybody that lives in not necessarily just like a condo or an apartment or anything like that, but even just like I do in an urban setting. You might have a small property. Out here in Southern California where I'm at, your lot's going to range anywhere from 5,000 to maybe 7,000 square feet. If you're lucky, you get it bigger, but you're going to have to go further out from the city to look for that type of stuff. This book I found pretty interesting. It's the Prepper's Cookbook. This book actually has over 300 recipes on food you can make with normal food that people use to stock and store for emergency situations or survival situations. That's a pretty good book right there. This book here, every step in canning, the cold pack method. This is a good book. If you don't know anything about canning, this is a good book to get you started on right here. Canning is very important because the shelf life of food once you can it. It's really good. Here's another little quick one. This one is Prepper's Pantry. It's a survival guide to food and water storage. This is mainly just kind of to help you just how to store food for long-term storage and water for long-term storage. One book that I like, I've been prepping for a few years now. I've really just tried to step up my game in the last couple of years. I say a few years, it's probably been about 10 or 15 years since I've been prepping. But for new preppers out there, this book's really good. This one is 52 Prepper Projects. It's a project a week, okay? And then there's also a shopping list, a weekly shopping list in the book to help you build your supplies. Now this book, I say it's good for beginners because there's so much information out there right now, from the internet to TV shows to books, that you don't know where to start if you're just beginning. This book is a really good starting point for beginners. And it goes all the way from bug out bags through the whole, runs the whole gamut there. This book is not also just for beginners. So as I was reading the book, I saw some stuff in there that I had not done or I had not thought of. So the book's really good for anybody that's prepping, but especially if you're starting prepping, this is a good book to start. Like I'll give you a look at it right there. Like I said, it's 52 Prepper Projects. David Nash is the writer. You can get this on Amazon. Has really great reviews on Amazon and a really good price on Amazon. Now, obviously, I have a lot more books, stuff from communication to bushcraft skills. Those are obviously important because if in a grid down situation, you never know where you're going to end up. You never know what you're going to need. So bushcraft skills are always going to be helpful, even in an urban setting. Communication is really important. If you don't know much about radios or anything about radios, I for one don't really know too much about radios. I'm just starting to get into the communication side there. Electronics and communications, I would say, is my weak point. I know how to use radios and stuff like that, obviously, but I don't know much about how to set up radios or repair radios or anything like that, really. So I got a book on that. Communication is really important. Some other stuff too is you don't need to just make it so cut and dry, black and white, instructional type books. These books right here, it's the Bug Out series. It's by Noah Mann. Alright, I've read 2 of these so far, and I'm on the 3rd one now. Bugging Out, that's the first one there. Then you got Eagle 1. And then you got Wasteland. Alright, Wasteland's the one I'm on right now. These books are awesome because they're very entertaining. I mean, I'll rip through these books here. They're really good books. Well written. You can tell that it's written by a prepper. They're not all off base and you're in an all-out war, but there's some hairy situations in there. It's a really cool book. It gets you thinking, one. And it also actually has some good things in there, like one of the items that they have in there in one of the books, or in the first book, is an electric blanket. The guy's up in the mountains, and one of his neighbors a few miles away, he comes and tells him that he smelled the smoke from his fire, and you can smell the smoke from the fire miles away, and there's really nobody in the area too, so if you smell the smoke, you know someone's in the area. And he had a solar system already set up on the house, so the neighbor told him about using an electric blanket. So that's one thing I never thought of. That's actually a really good point. At night, if you're going to be out, and if you're out in a rural area or out in a mountainous area, it's going to be cold at night, even during the summer, just because the temperature drop. You really don't want to start a fire if you're in a situation like that where you know there might be other people around, because that smoke is going to give it away. The light from inside the property is going to give it away. So electric blanket is a really good idea. So books like that, there's obviously a bunch of different series out there. There's a bunch of good different series out there. I like this one a lot. It's well written. It's a good story. It's very, very entertaining and very, very useful as well. There's a lot of useful information in there, and it gets you thinking. So make sure to expand on your prepper library now, or start your prepper library now if you haven't yet. It's going to be very important just to have that information on hand. Like I said, in the future I'm going to be doing some more videos as far as individual book reviews, and we'll go over some books and stuff. But I just wanted to give you kind of a quick rundown of what are the kind of things you should have in your prepper library, and why it's important to start your prepper library and have it in place now before something happens. Everybody focuses on, you know, food, water, guns, bullets, that kind of stuff, which you need to. It's all part of it. You got to have a little bit of everything. I'd rather have a little bit of everything than all of something else and nothing of another thing that I'm going to need in the future. So I would work on that now if you haven't started yet. If you already have, go ahead and keep at it. Amazon's a great place to get a lot of these books. They're very cheap on Amazon. If you have Prime, you get free shipping. On a lot of the books, you get free shipping just based on your order amount. So make sure to keep increasing your knowledge. Make sure to keep increasing your library. That way it's on hand. Don't depend on the electronics. It's nice to have them now. It's cool to have them. I use them all the time. But you got to have the books as well. So go ahead and keep up. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Subscribe below, comment below, leave comments, let me know what I can do to improve, let me know how we can make the channel better, and I hope you guys enjoy viewing. I'll see you next time. Prepper71 out.